Chapter 30. Heisenberg. Betraying nothing of his growing anxiety, Xicadian's so-called fourth-generation Zybot just continued to wait patiently until the doctor had finally vacated the clinic. At last, now completely alone, he made his way eagerly into the chemistry lab and stood pensively in the centre of the room. A historical mirror image of Zethusela seemed to appear out of nowhere, and the Zybot waved a hand in front of the image's face, as if to reassure himself it was only a projection. He stood transfixed by his old image, as he continued to stare on with a morbid kind of fascination. Was this machine truly still him, or did he reside on that shelf in a jar? Or at least what they managed to scrape off the floor anyway. It was said that the eyes were a window to the soul, but as he touched a hand to his face, all he could feel were a set of high-tech optical receivers. "I'm telling you, it's still me." The scientist tried to reassure himself doubtfully. Different, but still same. But somehow still different. All right, what exactly was the problem here? In a moment of blinding revelation, he suddenly realized what was bothering him and quickly got to work. Clamping a hand around one of his optical appendages, he began to squeeze tightly until he heard a small confirmation chirp. He then swiftly rotated the device, like a ultra-high precision combination lock, until eventually the unit finally chirped again. With a palpable sense of relief, the Zybot carefully pulled the device away from its housing. After removing 2 more of his eyes, he somewhat pensively updated the image, such that it now reflected his true mechanical form. Zethusela took another long, hard look at his reflection. Much better, he thought to himself with a perplexed sense of relief. At least now, if he squinted hard enough, he could recognize the face looking back at him. Well, sort of, anyway. Allowing the image to blink out of existence, the Zybot lifted one of his hands and examined it very closely. After a few seconds, it started to shake badly. "I can't believe this is happening to me," he thought to himself with a sense of utter dismay. He grabbed hold of his wrist in frustration, abruptly forcing his hand back to stillness. He then reluctantly released it with a disconsolate shake of his head. The reality was, he could no longer ignore what was happening, nor how it was impeding his ability to think clearly. It was time to get this situation under control. No, for better or worse, he knew exactly what had to be done next. The Zybot felt his heart start to pound, despite the fact he didn't actually have any. The anticipation, the need, and the craving was becoming almost unbearable. If he didn't deal with this issue right now, then in a few days, he might not be capable of doing it alone. Just the thought of revealing his condition to the doctor was almost too humiliating to bear. No, he would conquer this challenge alone, just as he always had, and just like he always would. The scientist wasted no time. He raced his way around the lab, retrieving several canisters of varying shapes and sizes, placing them all onto a pristine white counter. Having now collected all the raw ingredients, he then retrieved a beaker, a conical flask, a thin, pliable tube, and a syringe with a stub-like needle. Zethusela took a small moment to settle his nerves. What would happen if this didn't actually work? Simple. I'd be completely and utterly fucked, he told himself very pragmatically. However, all that really meant was it absolutely would work, because failure was no longer an option. Having now convinced himself that success was assured, the scientist eagerly proceeded to mix and blend his cocktail of chemicals and drugs.
All right then, let's get this party started,
the scientist muttered performatively to himself with a self-deprecating sense of absurdity. Dipping the needle into the steaming head of the beaker, he proceeded to swiftly fill the syringe with its chemical payload. With the needle now locked and loaded, he surreptitiously placed it to the counter and then hurriedly disconnected a finger. In his rush to partake in this experimental remedial hit, he clumsily dropped the digit to the floor. Cursing under his metaphorical breath, he took an exasperated look under the counter and accidentally kicked the digit with one of his feet.
You have got to be fucking kidding me. Where in Xicadia did the damn thing go?
Zethusela carefully scanned the floor from one end to the other, but the finger was simply nowhere to be found.
All right, this is 100% certified slime worm excrement. Things don't just magically disappear into thin air.
His whole body started to shake with the utter frustration of the moment, and he began to laugh maniacally at the utter absurdity of the situation at hand. He had to take a few moments to calm himself before everything very mercifully settled back down. Not to be outdone, the scientist switched his vision to infrared and started to very carefully rescan the floor. The finger would surely have no other choice now but to reveal itself via its residual heat differential.
Well, by the shadow of Xicades, where in Xicadia could it have gone? All right then, have it your way. No more Mr. Nice Guy.
Finally deciding it was time to bring out the big guns, Zethusela proceeded to run a Zix field scan across the entire length of the floor, and then even up the walls for good measure. Disappeared. The accursed thing has simply disappeared. I literally kicked it into another dimension, he thought to himself, with a sense of incredulous rage. Why, oh why, am I being fucked over like this? You know what? Screw the finger. I'll figure it out later, after I've taken my medicinal tonic. Besides, even if it has truly blinked out of existence, like some kind of malevolent virtual particle, then all it will have actually done is save me the hassle of removing the damn thing every time I need to top myself up. Looking down disconsolately at his hand, he noted the strong blue beam of light emanating from the circular cavity left behind by his finger. With a small, resigned shake of his head, he began rotating a ring at the base of the hole until the blue light faded to black. Taking a moment to restore his composure, he fitted the rubber tubing into the socket and nervously injected the side wall of the tube.
My moment of truth,
he whispered to himself, almost reverently.
Nothing. I feel absolutely... something? My oh my.
The Zybot's legs neatly folded underneath him as he silently collapsed down onto the floor.
Oh, wow. Same, but different. So very, very different.
Zethusela's eyes flashed brightly and then started to cycle like a rainbow. Nothing else happened for a few minutes, but then the joints on two of his legs spontaneously inverted, and the Zybot began to list awkwardly to one side. A clear, pristine fluid started to slowly drizzle from one of the empty eye sockets.
This is where God lives.
The scientist whispered reverently to himself, just moments before his eyes went black.